So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Tanzi and Michelle. And this week is going to be on the power of, let me say it right, acclimation. Acclimation, that's what we landed on. And it's interesting trying to find quotes around that, because what they talk about is goldfish in bags, and you're acclimating them to the fish tank temperature, water temperature, or plants acclimating when you transplant them. So this is the quote we found that aligns to the topic and what it means for us around the power of acclimation. I'm going to read it. Charles Lauer, it says, leaders don't force people to follow, they invite them on the journey. And so, Tanzi, when you and I first started talking about this, what came to mind for me, because you're in a newer role, yes. And so it's stepping into that place and giving people time to adjust to you. What came to mind for me is, Sutter's got a new CEO, other leaders that step into roles. Flo de Benedetto, when she was chief counsel, general counsel for Sutter Health, she went into the role at the beginning and spent the first 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it was, just really getting to know the people, getting to know the processes, understanding what's getting in the way, understanding what's working. She didn't step in and go, I'm here, this is how I run the shop, and we're going to do things differently and make things better. And for me, when I think about the power of acclimation, that's where the power is. And I think it's so respectful of the teams and giving yourself that grace to step in and go, let's figure out who you are, who I am, before we just start stepping in and assuming we're going to do things differently. What's on your mind?
Absolutely. When we landed on this topic, I thought, wow, what a absolute relevant topic. Yes, I'm in a newer role right now, and I'm doing just that. I'm taking time to recognize and learn and understand who the team that I support is and who I am in this role. Mm-hmm. And who we are together. And I feel like we need to take time, quality time, to really dig into that and figure out what things look like. And once we have a grasp on those things, then we look at where do we go next. It's mm-hmm. so important. That's time that you can't get back. So why not do it right?
It's interesting you say that, is to understand who the team is, who I am in this new role. Because when I was looking for quotes, I did run across a quote basically along those same lines. What was interesting to me is that as you move up in levels of leadership, you change.
You do.
You need to step in to, and it's just along the same lines when I talk to leaders about when they're going to go to a meeting or going to this challenging situation. It's like, set the intention for yourself. Who do you need to be, right? And I'm going to pull back to you, right? And think about you is that you're very biased toward action. We talked about that before, quick to execute whatever it is. And so for you, to be able to do it and stay in this power of acclimation mode, what's the intention that you had to set for yourself?
To be mindful of where my strengths and weaknesses are. That's step one. And then to recognize what the team needs. And right now, bias towards action is great, but not right now. Right now, I recognize that the team needs support.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are right now. We're working to understand who we are together as a team. And I'm stepping in those areas where support is needed and providing some guidance.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about this too. It's a really strong respect for people. I think when you come in, because you're coming in dealing with other people with, they have experience, they have intelligence, they've got ideas of what needs to be changed. And I think part of the opportunity or the power in acclimation, which is as a leader, giving yourself that space to see what's going on around you, is that you can ask those questions. What's working for you from previous leadership and the way things done? What didn't work for you? What do you need that you're not currently getting? And I think if we step in too quickly and think that we've got to go right to start doing action, i.e. changing stuff,
Yes.
we skip over the basics, which are the creating, and you and I have talked before about the foundation of, to your point, the new relationship that you're going into.
Absolutely. Again, as I mentioned, you can't get that time back. You got to do it right. You got to go in and understand what's working well, what's not working well. Where can we step it up? Where do you see gaps? Where can we do it better? All of those things are relevant, and it's so important to get that on the front end. I've been in other positions where I've jumped in, maybe did a little bit too fast and implemented change, and things were a little bit difficult. Thankfully, I've learned from some of those, and I'm very intentional in this role and making sure that each step is calculated, and I'm thinking through and making sure that I bring the entire team along, because I don't want to look back one day and recognize that the team is 50 steps behind me. I've got to make sure that I'm always bringing them along with me every step of the way.
Well, and I think what you call out too, when you said, I've thought about it before, and, I didn't always do it this way. And I'm sitting here as a bobblehead going, yeah, I can relate to that, because I would step in intentionally wanting to help, right? And improve things and everything else, but I didn't give people a chance to know me. And so if we don't give people a chance to know us, then the story behind why we're going to action as quickly as we are may not be aligned with why we're going to action as quickly as we are.
Absolutely. And that's really funny that you say that, because sometimes when people don't have the story, they make things up.
They do.
Yes, absolutely. And then the point that you made about, people getting to know you, and that, to me, when I hear that, I think about trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you establish trust, right? You get to know people. You find out what's important to them. You learn about what their interests are. You learn about what's working well, as I mentioned. All of those things matter, and it's so important to look into those things from the very beginning, because those things advise next steps.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just really important. It's something that I'm learning it right now. This is new for me. This whole style of leadership right now. This is new for me, but I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying it. I really am. And I'm thinking, why didn't I do this before?
Because it takes intention. Because your thing is, I'm there now and I'm going to make change. There's opportunity, whatever it is, right? But the reality of it is the power in what we've been talking about, and waiting so that people can get used to each other and acclimate to whatever the new situation, leadership, whatever it is. You're building a solid foundation, and it means that you've got to sit back and go, okay, I can see opportunity and things to do, but to your point, now it's not the time. So here's my question: how will you know when it is the time to basically evolve or transition to the next stage?
I tend to think about push and pull.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team will tell me when it's time. I'll be intentional and recognizing that there will be times where I have to step in because maybe it's a patient safety issue or it's urgent. And when those times happen, it's going to be important for me to explain, we need to take this action because X, Y, and Z. Making sure to bring people along, making sure that people understand why we need to take action X, Y, and Z. However, I really believe in engaging the team and allowing us to decide together what next steps look like. I think there's power in that.
Oh, I hands down agree with you. Hands down agree with you. So I was just curious, what was on your mind? When would you know? Because it's going to be different for every team. But yeah, totally agree with you.
Yes.
So thank you for this, because there's a lot to it. It was interesting finding quotes. Oh, there's one more. It's Ken Blanchard. It's effective team leaders adjust their style to provide what the group can't provide for itself. And so that one to me, when we're talking about it, is when you mentioned support and understanding what they need and what's going on, I think that's the other aspect of it, is that how do you know, right? If you didn't take the time to discover what it is.
You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know.
So anyway,
time.
Yeah, I agree. It's not easy to do, especially in this day and age where everything's going at 110 miles an hour.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, but I appreciate it. So Tanzi, what are one or two things you want people to walk away with on the topic of the power of acclimation?
Take it from me. Move into action immediately will yield unintended results. There's power in taking time to get to know your team. I think that's the one thing that I want to share with the audience. Yeah.
So here's what comes to mind for me is being able to recognize when we may not be doing that. And then to counter this, because what'll happen is there may be this narrative inside our heads that said we have to go to action, we have to prove ourselves, right? Especially in a newer role, a newer leadership role. And I think that's the thing that people may struggle with, right? Is that I've got to hit the ground running, I have to prove my worth. And I think part of that is if that's the narrative that you're battling against, like you talked about intentionality and having conversations with people, I think having a conversation with leadership where you may be feeling that pressure about what your strategy is around giving time and acclimating and understanding, that's going to be important. So people don't think that you're just kind of in, cruise mode or, circling the airport, but it's like, here's my strategy. I want to get to know, I want them to get to know, and then I can create pull about the engagement of what we do on a go forward. So that's what comes to mind for me.
Absolutely. Building.
Anyway, yes. Oh yeah, it's fun. Foundational, what is it? 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Yes. That is the foundational thing is trust. So totally agree with you. So thank you. Well, this has been Leadership Soundbites with Tanzi and Michelle on the power of acclimation. Please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.